If you were born after 1990, I need you to stop everything you're doing and listen closely, because the retirement check you've been promised by the government is not coming. Not in the way you think, and definitely not in the amount you were sold. The mainstream news will have you panicking about headlines screaming that Social Security is going bankrupt, but they're missing the nuance that actually matters. It's not bankruptcy, it's insolvency. According to the government's own chief actuaries, the Social Security Trust Fund is projected to be completely depleted by 2033. When that happens, the system doesn't disappear overnight. It just switches to a pure pay-as-you-go model, meaning it can only pay out exactly what it collects in payroll taxes that month. And right now, the math is brutally clear. Incoming tax revenue will only cover about 77% of promised benefits. That is an automatic, legislated 23% pay cut to your retirement income the moment the fund hits zero. If you are counting on $2,000 a month to survive in your 60s, you are suddenly going to be living on $1,540. That $500 gap isn't just pocket change. That is your grocery bill. That is your heating costs. That is the difference between aging with dignity and aging in panic. And the scariest part? Most people are still playing by the old rules, waiting for politicians to magically fix a system that is mathematically broken instead of taking control of their own financial destiny. But you don't have to wait. You have time, but you have to move now, because by the end of this breakdown, I'm going to hand you the exact exit plan to legally and mathematically replace that missing income so you never have to rely on a collapsing system again. Let's strip away the politics and the fear-mongering and just look at the raw mechanics of how this system actually works, because if you don't understand the engine, you can't fix the leak. Social Security was never designed as a personal savings account where you contribute money, watch it compound, and withdraw it later. It was built as a generational transfer program. Current workers pay into the system to fund current retirees. For decades, this worked beautifully because the demographics were perfectly stacked in its favor. In 1950, there were 16 workers paying into the system for every single retiree taking money out. That massive surplus created the trust fund we hear about today. But look at where we are now. That ratio has collapsed to under 3 workers for every retiree, and by 2035, it's projected to drop to just 2.3 to 1. Fewer people are paying in, more people are taking out. People are living longer, birth rates are falling. The math doesn't care about your political affiliation. It doesn't care about campaign promises. The demographic reality dictates that the system must shrink, and anyone telling you otherwise is either misinformed or selling you complacency. Now, I know exactly what you're thinking right now. You're thinking that Congress will just step in, raise the retirement age, increase payroll taxes, or print money to cover the shortfall, and maybe they will. But think about the lag time and the political gridlock we're already drowning in. If you are 25 years old today, you have 40 years before you even qualify for full benefits. Do you really want to bet your entire financial survival on a legislative promise that is already mathematically impossible to keep in its current form? Relying on Social Security as your primary retirement vehicle isn't conservative planning anymore. It's financial Russian roulette. The average benefit check sitting at around $1,900 a month is a starting point, not a finish line. But to live comfortably in the modern economy, a retiree needs closer to $4,500 a month just to cover housing, healthcare, food, and basic inflation. That leaves a massive, gaping hole of $2,600 every single month. If you don't have a plan to fill that hole, you are mathematically guaranteed to downgrade your lifestyle, drain your savings, and become a burden on your family. This isn't doom scrolling, this is arithmetic. And arithmetic is the one thing you can actually control if you stop hoping and start building. So how do we actually close that $2,600 monthly gap without working until we're 80 or living on rice and beans? We stop treating retirement like a lottery ticket and start treating it like an engineering problem. You don't need a miracle. You need a parallel system. A system that you own, that you control, and that isn't subject to congressional vote cycles or demographic collapse. I call this the triple threat protocol, and it's the exact framework high net worth individuals use to insulate themselves from systemic risk. It's not about picking winning stocks or timing the market. It's about building 3 distinct financial layers that work together to replace that missing government income, protect you from taxes, and give you liquidity when you actually need it. Most people only have one layer, usually a traditional 401k, and they wonder why they feel trapped in retirement. They're vulnerable to tax hikes, market volatility, and withdrawal penalties. But when you stack 3 specific vehicles correctly, you create a financial fortress. Layer 1 is your tax-free growth engine. Layer 2 is your healthcare and stealth retirement shield. Layer 3 is your liquidity bridge that gives you freedom before the government even allows you to touch your other accounts. When these 3 work in sync, you stop worrying about what happens in Washington and start focusing on what happens in your portfolio. The government's job is to provide a baseline safety net. Your job is to build the actual house you're going to live in. And the beautiful part? You don't need to be a Wall Street genius to do this. You just need to understand the rules of the game and execute with consistency. Let's break down exactly how each layer works, because the difference between Layer 1 and Layer 3 could save you hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes and decades of stress. Layer 1 is the Roth IRA, and if you're not maxing this out, you are literally leaving free money on the table. Most people default to a traditional 401k or traditional IRA because the upfront tax deduction feels good right now. You put money in, your taxable income drops, and you feel like you won. But retirement isn't about how much you save today. It's about how much you keep tomorrow. When you pull money out of a traditional account in retirement, every single dollar is taxed as ordinary income. If you need $2,600 a month to replace your Social Security gap, you might actually have to withdraw $3,500 just to cover the 28% tax bite. That is a massive leak in your bucket. The Roth IRA flips the script entirely. You pay taxes on the money now, while you're presumably in a lower tax bracket, but every single dollar of growth, dividends, and capital gains compounds completely tax-free. When you retire, you pull it out, and the government gets zero, not a penny. That $1 in equals $1 out efficiency is what separates people who struggle in retirement from people who thrive. Think about the power of that over 30 years. If you invest $1,000 a month into a Roth IRA starting at age 30, assuming a conservative 8% average annual return, you will have over $1.2 million by age 65, and because it's a Roth, that entire $1.2 million is yours. No tax bills. No required minimum distributions forcing you to take money out when you don't need it. No political changes altering the withdrawal rules retroactively. It's your money, locked in, growing silently, and waiting for you. The contribution limits are capped, yes, but that's exactly why you need to treat it like a non-negotiable bill. Automate it. Forget it. Let the tax code work for you instead of against you. This is your foundation. This is your tax-free engine. And it's the first line of defense against a collapsing social safety net. Layer 2 is where 90% of people completely fumble the bag, and it's the Health Savings Account, or HSA. Most treat an HSA like a glorified checking account for copays and prescription refills. They spend it as soon as it hits the account, completely missing the fact that it is the only financial vehicle in the United States with a triple tax advantage. Let that sink in. Triple. You get a tax deduction when you contribute. Your money grows tax-free inside the account, and your withdrawals are completely tax-free as long as they're used for qualified medical expenses. That is a tax shelter so powerful that even billionaires envy it. But here's the secret hack that changes everything. Once you turn 65, the HSA transforms into a stealth traditional IRA. You can withdraw the money for absolutely anything, and you only pay ordinary income tax on non-medical withdrawals. But if you've been smart, you've invested those HSA funds in low-cost index funds and let them compound for decades. Healthcare is the single biggest wildcard in retirement. Fidelity estimates that a 65-year-old couple retiring today will spend over $300,000 on medical costs alone. One major illness, one unexpected surgery, one long-term care facility stay, and your entire retirement portfolio can be wiped out overnight. The HSA isn't just a savings account. It's an insurance policy against financial ruin. By funding it, investing it, and refusing to touch it for minor expenses, you're building a dedicated healthcare war chest that grows tax-free and protects your other assets from being drained. When you combine this with your Roth IRA, you've just neutralized the two biggest threats to retirement: income taxes and medical bankruptcy. You're not just saving money anymore. You're engineering immunity. And the best part? The contribution limits increase every year. Max it out. Invest it. Forget it exists until you absolutely need it. This is how the wealthy stay wealthy. They don't spend their tax advantages, they compound them. Layer 3 is the piece that gives you actual freedom, and it's the taxable brokerage account. Now I know what you're thinking. Taxable? That sounds like a disadvantage. But in retirement planning, liquidity is king, and this is your liquidity bridge. Roth IRAs and HSAs are incredible, but they come with strings attached. You can't touch Roth earnings early without penalties. You can't use HSA funds for non-medical expenses before 65 without taxes. Life doesn't always wait until you hit specific age milestones. What if you want to retire at 55? What if you get laid off at 58 and need cash flow before Social Security even kicks in at 62 or 67? That's where the taxable brokerage account steps in. You fund it with after-tax dollars, so you don't get an upfront deduction, but when you sell, you only pay long-term capital gains tax, which is significantly lower than ordinary income tax. More importantly, you have complete unrestricted access to your money. No penalties, no age gates, no government paperwork. This account is your bridge between your working years and your retirement years. It's where you park your emergency fund overflow, your side hustle income, and your aggressive savings goals. By investing this in broad market index funds, you're building a liquid portfolio that can generate dividend income or be systematically sold down to cover living expenses whenever you need it. When you stack this alongside your Roth and HSA, you've created a 3-tier withdrawal strategy. You pull from your taxable bridge first to manage your tax bracket. You tap your Roth when you need tax-free income to offset high-tax years. And you reserve your HSA strictly for healthcare or as a last resort retirement supplement. This isn't just diversification. This is tactical financial engineering. It gives you optionality. It gives you control. And in a world where pension plans are extinct and Social Security is shrinking, optionality is the only real security you have left. $100 a month to close the Social Security gap. That's $31,200 a year. Using the standard 4% safe withdrawal rate, you need a portfolio of roughly $780,000 to generate that income sustainably without running out of money. Does that sound impossible? Let's break it down by age. If you start investing $1,000 a month at age 30, compounding at 8%, you'll cross the $780,000 mark by 62. You've solved the problem. If you start at 40, you need to push that to roughly $2,000 a month. If you start at 50, you're looking at $4,000 a month. The math is unforgiving, but it's also incredibly liberating because it puts the power back in your hands. You're not waiting for a check in the mail. You're building a machine that prints your own check. And here's the leverage point most people miss. You don't have to do this purely through stock market contributions. You can accelerate the timeline by adding real estate cash flow, building a scalable side business, or optimizing your career income to fund the investments faster. The goal isn't just to hoard a lump sum. The goal is to create multiple streams of cash flow that pay you whether you work or not. Social Security is a single stream controlled by politicians. Your portfolio is a multi-stream engine controlled by you. When you shift your mindset from relying on a system to building a system, the panic disappears. The math becomes your ally. And the future stops. So here is your exact action plan. Do not skip this, because information without execution is just entertainment. Step 1. Log into the official Social Security Administration website right now. Create an account. Look at your estimated benefit statement. Take that number and multiply it by 0.77. That is your realistic baseline. Write it down. Step 2. Calculate your actual retirement number. Track your current expenses, add 20% for inflation and healthcare, and subtract that realistic Social Security baseline. The difference is your monthly gap. That is your target. Step 3. Automate the triple threat. Set up recurring transfers to your Roth IRA, your HSA, and your taxable brokerage account. Treat these transfers like a non-negotiable tax. Pay yourself before you pay your lifestyle. If you wait until the end of the month to invest, you will invest nothing. Step 4. Educate yourself relentlessly. Stop consuming content that tells you everything is fine. Start studying tax-efficient withdrawal strategies, index fund compounding, and cash flow optimization. You are the CEO of your retirement. The government is just a vendor, and that vendor is unreliable. I've built a free Social Security gap calculator that plugs in your age, income, and current savings to tell you exactly how much you need to invest monthly to close your specific gap. The link is in the description. Download it, run your numbers, stop guessing. If this breakdown shifted your perspective, hit subscribe. We're building a community of people who refuse to be victims of broken systems and choose to be architects of their own wealth. Next week, I'm breaking down exactly why your 401k is leaking thousands in hidden fees and how to plug the leak before it drains your future. Your retirement is your responsibility. Start acting like it. I'll see you in the next one.